Well, here we are, week 4, and we're still here, and there's lots and lots of advice around about what to do, including from our own Prime Minister. So I hope you've got that letter. I hope you've seen the leaflet. I hope that's been worthwhile, telling us, lots of things that we already know. And yet, we're still getting in to the next phase. We're still looking forward to the future. But before we do that, I think it's important to remember that there's lots of things that we need to remind ourselves that we need to do, which is keep informed from the right sources, which is keep in contact with our friends and our family, and making sure that we have a structure in our day. Lots of advice from lots of people, including these people and organisations. So it's not that we're short of what it is that we should be doing. Part of the question, or part of the issue, of course, is about belief, is about actually getting involved and making the changes. And how do we know we've made changes? Well, we're still here. And my suggestion this week, actually, is that we should celebrate. Celebrate the fact that 4 weeks ago, almost a month ago, our lives were turned upside down. Back in January, so 6 or 7 months ago, we saw what was happening in China, and we sort of looked at that as if it was some kind of science fiction movie. And then we saw what happened as it came closer. We saw what happened in Italy, and then Spain, and then France, and then a month ago it came here. And our lives have become completely different. We're staying at home obviously a lot more. When you do go out, it's so very quiet and people keep their distance. And yet we're succeeding. And I wonder, what has worked for you? Do you actually know what it is that you've done that's made sure that you're here? While you're thinking about that, let's bear in mind that some 15,000 people haven't made it. That 15,000 people or so have died. And that includes the affected, their families and friends and colleagues, and all the people around them who also will be going through bereavement issues at the moment. For them, they cannot mourn properly. So my suggestion for all of us, whether we're bereaved, whether we've got people who are ill, or whether we managed to have survived the coronavirus relatively scot-free so far, is to work out how we've done it. Is to look at the last month or so, to pick out the 3 or 4 things that have actually worked, to look at the things that haven't worked, and firstly, celebrate those. If you know someone who's died, then clearly you can't get together to celebrate, but you can celebrate your own memories of who they were. Look around your family. How have you managed to keep together with your friends, your family, your parents perhaps? What has actually worked? Lots of advice out there, but what works for you? Get together, chat about it, talk about it, and think about, okay, we've now been told we're going to be here for another 3 weeks. So the question is, what's going to work for the next 3 weeks? What are the things that we know that works? What are the things we know that don't? And what do we want to do perhaps that we haven't tried? So partly this weekend, I think, should be about celebrating. Celebrating the fact that we're here. Celebrating the fact that even though this pandemic is running around the world, we are surviving and we are thriving. Now, I know that can sound a bit trite, by which I mean if your business is closed down, by which I mean if you're worried about where your income is coming from. But we know, and those people earlier also tell us, that holding on to it doesn't help. There's lots of advice you can get. There's lots of free advice you can get. Lots of those agencies, the UKCP, the BACP, lots of therapists and business coaches are offering free advice. So look around. Whatever you do, don't hold it in. Keep it out. Keep talking about it. Keep it out in the open, because there is always a way. So celebrate. Now you might choose to think, oh, it's a bit odd, not quite sure what to celebrate. So take a week. Look at the last month. Look at what works. Look at what doesn't work. And maybe plan for this time next week to have a celebration. To celebrate with your family, to connect with all this internet stuff with your friends, to see what works. Ask them what works. See what you can learn from other people who are having an okay time, or at least a stable time. We're going to be here for 3 more weeks, because when you decide what works, there's a bigger question. And that bigger question is, what are we going to do when this is over? Now, it sounds from the information that we're getting that in some senses it'll never quite leave us, any more than the flu the yearly flu leaves us. But how do you want to do things differently? How is it that you found out what works in your family? And what do you want to keep beyond this whole pandemic? Is it about the jobs you do? Is it about where you live? Is it about how you manage your life? Are your future goals 5-10 years ahead now completely different to where they were a few weeks ago? Just put those in ideas in your mind, jot all sorts of things down. No decisions about that have to be made just yet, but it's worth thinking about it. It's worth looking at what works and celebrating that, and then that'll help us move on to the next 3 weeks. So there we are. We are here. We're here for the next 3 weeks. This will end, as I keep saying. Yeah, 15,000 people have died. And as I said earlier on, they have friends and family. They have colleagues. My suggestion to them, to you, if you have someone who's died, put a note in the diary for this time next year. This time next year, you might have a celebration, a service of celebration or remembrance, when you can all get together, when you can have that funeral that you can't have today. A service of remembrance, a service of celebration. And that's when the full bereavement and the full grieving can be concluded. So it will happen. It just means it needs to be planned. So look at what's worked. Look at what you think really has helped you through the last few weeks, and keep to that. And look at the things that perhaps you've forgotten about, the things perhaps that have got lost in some of the anxiety and some of the fear. And bring the world together, bring your family together, and start planning some elements for your future. And there are some practical things to do. And if you're watching Neil is the man who does my hair every 5 or 6 weeks. I'm going to try this and we'll see what happens. And Neil, when this is over, we'll plan to get together and you'll hopefully put right the mess, potentially, I'm about to make. And I'll see you all next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.